Next up, we have Soren Newman and Darin Saul, who will be sharing about Palouse landowners' perspectives and interests in local food production.
All right. Hi, I'm Soren Newman. I'm a sociologist in the Office of Grant and Project Development at the University of Idaho College of Agricultural and Life Sciences. And I'm joining you with my colleague, Darin Saul, who's the director of the Office of Grant and Project Development. So we're working on this project with a group of University of Idaho researchers and extension educators to explore different aspects of scaling up fruit and vegetable production and just building capacity in the Palouse food system. In 2019 and 2020, our work on this project included interviewing a variety of stakeholders, including farmers, buyers, distributors, and local government representatives, and conducting a survey of landowners. We explored interests, capacities, and potential barriers for scaling up fruit and vegetable production, including exploring water availability and small acreage farmers' access to farmland, which is the aspect of the project we'll focus on today. Several land access challenges came up when we interviewed 9 small acreage produce growers located on the Palouse in 2019, such as finding land that is affordable, finding land with adequate or predictable access to irrigation water, finding land near land they already farm, and finding land near their markets. In spring of 2020, we surveyed Palouse landowners to explore how many acres could potentially be available for small acreage farmers to buy or rent, what types of agricultural practices landowners would and would not want on their property if they leased to small acreage growers, and landowners' perception of water availability for agricultural purposes. We sent the survey to all landowners in Latah and Whitman counties whose land could feasibly support fruit or vegetable production. Of the 511 landowners who received the survey, 327 participated for a 64% response rate, which is really good. To give you a sense of who the respondents were, 54% own land in Latah County, 35% own land in Whitman County, and 6% own land in both counties. 84% live on or next to their land. 86% currently use their land for dry land agriculture. A little more than half lease their land to a farmer or rancher, and a little less than half farm or ranch their own land. 36% have livestock production on their land, and 15% already have vegetable production. Okay, so what did we find? Not many respondents said they would be willing to sell their land to farmers for fruit and vegetable production. Only 23, or 8% of all respondents. Their responses on the open-ended questions made it clear that most just aren't interested in selling their land for any reason. While 23 may seem like a small number of people willing to sell, at the same time, that means there are 23 landowners out there representing more than 250 acres that they would consider selling for this type of production. If farmers could connect with and afford this land, then even 250 acres offers a lot of potential for this type of small acreage production. To give you a sense of scale, of the 9 Palouse-based fruit and vegetable farmers who participated in our interviews, 5 acres is the average number of acres they had in fruit and vegetable production. The smallest was half an acre in fruit and vegetable production, and the largest had 6 acres in fruit and vegetable production. These are farms that grow a lot of food on a small amount of ground. Setting aside all other factors that would make significantly scaled up fruit and vegetable production viable on the Palouse for a moment, and thinking about this only in terms of acres, 250 additional acres could support roughly 40 more farms at the scale most of our successful produce growers operate. Considerably more landowners were interested in leasing. 103, or 34%, said they would be willing to lease to farmers for fruit or vegetable production. We then asked landowners how interested they would be in leasing their land specifically for berry, vegetable, fruit tree, cattle, and other animal enterprises. In general, landowners were more interested in fruit and vegetable production on their properties and less interested in animal production. but many landowners would be open to a conversation about any type of production. As is typically the case, the devil is in the details. We also asked the extent to which landowners would support or oppose certain production practices and infrastructure on their land if they were leasing it to a farmer. Overall, landowners were willing to lease slightly more. Overall, landowners who were willing to lease were slightly more supportive of organic production and slightly more opposed to synthetic fertilizer and chemical pesticide use. However, in the open-ended answers, many explained they prefer organic production, but view conventional inputs as appropriate or tolerable in some cases. When it comes to different types of infrastructure, landowners were generally supportive of things like greenhouses, fences, and irrigation, or again, at least open to considering it. Yet many respondents who said they were not interested in leasing for fruit and vegetable production explained they were concerned about the long-term impacts of infrastructure like this that could be difficult to clean up or remove. Many landowners said they would be open to any type of farming as long as the farmer was paying their rent. Others were in long-term lease agreements and not interested in changing their lease relationships anytime soon. Another theme was that many landowners are interested in sustaining and supporting the already dominant conventional dryland farming system and see it as the most appropriate agriculture for this landscape.
We are now going to give a brief snapshot of what we learned from farmers and landowners about their perceptions and experiences with water availability for food production. Overall, there's a lot of uncertainty regarding the availability of water over the long term. How will factors like climate change, growing population, state and local policy, and conservation measures impact water quantity and access in 10, 30, or 50 years? The majority of farmers and landowners involved in this study believe groundwater resources from Palouse aquifers are declining, or said that they don't know what the current state of our groundwater resources is. Of the 9 growers we interviewed, 5 said their farm has access to just enough irrigation water. 3 said their farm has access to more than enough irrigation water, and 1 said they don't know. No one said they do not currently have access to enough irrigation water. At specific sites, however, the geology can make accessing groundwater more challenging or less abundant than at others. We heard several examples of farmers not being able to access the amount of water they hoped, or the abundance of their irrigation water was changing. This was also an interesting theme from the landowner survey. Many in open-ended answers said they are supportive of fruit and vegetable production, but the wells on their property simply would not provide enough water to sustain it. Another important factor affecting the scaling up in fruit and vegetable production is farmers' interest and ability to do so. Small acreage fruit and vegetable producers we talked to in 2019 generally did not have strong interest in significantly scaling up their operations. Most had found a business model that worked well for them, and they weren't looking to take on more work, capital investment, or risk, or to substantially change their target markets. In 2019 to 2020, when we interviewed growers and buyers representing restaurants, institutions, and retailers, there were market opportunities, but it was clear they depend on and are evolving based on factors such as who's involved, who is the farmer, produce manager, or food service director at the organization, what each person's values and interests are, how much and what crops farmers have available from year to year, and so forth. Ultimately, there are market opportunities, some ready to step into and others that could be created by the right entrepreneur. Is scaling up the local food system feasible here? Yes, but the details matter. It's no surprise the Palouse is not suitable for large-scale irrigated fruit and vegetable production, like we see in central Washington or California. Over the long run, the Palouse is water constrained, and options to develop more water are expensive. There's also uncertainty on all sides, including the science, which adds risk and points towards the need for caution. At the same time, small acreage fruit and vegetable farms, individually and collectively, are using little water compared to other users. We can have many more farms growing fruits and vegetables of the type and scale of those small acreage farms we already have. The future is clearly not one of free and abundant water, and it is prudent to focus on water efficiency going forward. There are opportunities to sustainably scale up fruit and vegetable production using indoor environments that use highly efficient irrigation systems, and to target fruit and vegetable production to specific crops that require less water. Finally, the interest many landowners expressed in supporting the dryland agricultural system begs questions others are already actively exploring here. How might we also build capacity, including local and regional markets, for livestock, poultry, and artisan and other grain and dryland food products? Thank you.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you.